Box and Whisker charts are one of the most underutilized data visualization formats that I have seen. There's been many cases where there has been a full analysis that compares different data sets and different groups of data together. But a lot of times people don't know how to use Box and Whisker charts. And the reason why is because oftentimes people don't understand what they're looking at. And so in this data visualization fundamental video, I'm going to share with you the power of Box and Whisker charts and how it can be used. So let's get started. Data visualizations can come in many different formats and or many different data visualizations. And one of the difficult things to decide on is what data visualization, bar or graph or line chart works best to show the data in the best way possible. And so oftentimes, instead of using a Box and Whisker chart, I will see just a normal bell distribution curve. And these bell distribution curves aren't necessarily terrible. What they can help you do is they can help you understand where the median is. It can help you understand where the specific tails are for a bell curve, but it doesn't necessarily allow you to compare specific groups of data. And so if you have two bell curves, you can overlay them one over the other, but you can't do this with, like, let's say 50 different groups. And this is where bar and whisker charts really come into play. They can allow you to look at outliers really easily. They can allow you to compare data sets easily, and it can be a first glance at how you can analyze data further. So to give you an example of how this works, we are looking at a Box and Whisker chart where we are taking a look at the qualified health plans by state. And so for all the qualified health plans for states within this data set, you can take a look by every state and you can see how many plans there are within each state. You can also look to see which ones have outliers. So for example, because every single plan in this set has a specific dot for each plan, you can take a look at individual plans and see where they lie within the given visualization. So for example, if we're looking at Virginia here, we've got two outliers that are way, way, way outside the normal distribution for Virginia. And they're way up here. And so you ask, okay, why is that the case? And so you say, okay, well, they have a really, really high premium. Why do they have a really high premium? And one of the reasons why these two have a high premium is because they have a very, very, their deductible is certainly different. So if you go down here, their deductible is half as much as it is up here. So if you look at, for example, this one from Blue Preferred PPO, it has a premium of $1,000 and it has a high deductible. Here, these have a lower premium, but some of them still have the highest deductible. So you have to then take a look at the details of the plan to understand why that's the case. One of the other things you can do is you can see, okay, why do some states have a wider range than others? And so as an example, if we have Nebraska here, why does it have a lot wider range and the median is a lot higher than everybody else? Where in comparison to New Hampshire here, it has a lower it has a lower distribution group, meaning that its upper whisker and its lower whisker are a lot more narrow than its other states. One of the things I like to do is, because there's a lot of data here, suppose I want to take a look at two individual states and compare them side by side. So I can take a look at, let's say, Arizona, Arkansas, and Arizona. Both of these states have different populations and they're set up in entirely different ways. And so you can take a look at these two states and say, okay, well, why do I have a more narrow range for Arizona where my upper whisker and lower whisker are a lot more narrow than in Arizona? And you can also say, okay, well, my median is 420, where in Arizona, my median is 426. So even though they have the same median, and if you just looked at a stat and said, hey, the median price for this plan on a monthly basis is just $420, then you could be talking about Arizona or you could be talking about Arkansas. But one of the things that you don't take into consideration is the number of plans, how wide they range in availability, and many other factors. And so a box and whisker chart can help you understand that there are more factors at play, and it can help you identify what's going on. And if we take a look at everything as a whole, you can start to understand how this takes place. So for example, I was talking about New Hampshire, but New Hampshire clearly has the lowest median when it comes to plans in all of the data set that I have here. It's not quite 50 states, but it's pretty close. Whereas then if you take a look at Alaska, it has a higher median distribution, but it has very few plans in the data set. And you ask, well, why is that the case? And I would say the reason why is because it has a very low population density and the hospitals are grouped in specific cities like Anchorage. And so if you were to look at health insurance for Anchorage, I would bet that the health insurance for Anchorage would be different than it would be in the rest of Alaska. But lo and behold, there's only 4 different plans available. Whereas if you look at like Nebraska or if you look at any other state, like for example, Mississippi, it has a lot more plans than it does in Alaska. In Florida, good Lord, Florida has so many plans that many of them are way on the outside. And it has a wider range, which means that you have a lot more availability and options when you go to Florida. And one of the reasons why is because there are a lot of hospitals in Florida, as well as there are a lot of people who need the health care. All this to say is that Box and Whisker Charts can help you understand data in 2 to 3 minutes. You can start to ask specific questions about the data that can help you dig into the pieces that you need to dig into. Bell curve distributions can help you only so far as to help you understand where that distribution is, where the tails are, how and where the average is, and it can give you a good visualization about where it is, but it can't necessarily help you compare different groups of data that easily. And that's where Box and Whisker Charts come in. So I hope this helps. I hope that this specific analysis can help you understand how to use Box and Whisker Charts when you're building out your own charts, your own distributions, and your own data visualizations.